In the very distant past, a great civilization was formed on the Nile River. A civilization so influential that it has left a footprint on the world that we know today. So influential, in fact, that someone dared to ask the question, what if we made an Assassin's Creed game, but then made it Egyptian, and then made it horny? Well, let me tell you something. Carnal Instinct is that exact game I was just describing. Now, you might take one good look at this game and think, this just looks like a shitty Assassin's Creed ripoff with some erotic smut thrown in there without much substance. Now, even though that may be true, if you really peel things back and take a closer look at it all, you could see some real passion and dedication behind this game. Even more so when you find out that this game was only made with about 5 people working on it. And that's saying something considering the fact that this game looks just as good as the AAA games that it's trying to imitate. Also, yes, I am going to have to censor every instance of nudity, which will be a lot. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of this review, I want to let you know that this game doesn't have a certain stigma around it that other similar games do seem to have. A good example of this is any game that is made in the accursed land of Japan, which have frequently sexualized characters that appear to be under the age of 18, which makes everyone on Earth think that maybe 2 nukes just wasn't enough. But don't fear, luckily I'm here to save you from going down the path of the pedophile and then knocking the copy of Blue Archive out of your hand, rescuing you from going to prison, where you would most likely get anally raped for the rest of eternity. Now, to be quite frank, I have had schizophrenic nightmares that have made more sense than whatever the fuck this game's story is. You play as yourself, a self-insert if you will. And because you are a self-insert who is representing you, your self-insert is a drooling non-verbal retard who makes some of the worst decisions I've ever seen in my life. This is also where you get to make your character, which to its credit has a very good character creator. There are a bunch of different options to customize your character, such as races, but at the beginning, a lot of them are locked. But we'll get to that later. I personally decided to go for a black Chinese person, a chigger, if you will, who is also dummy thick. So when I am walking down the street at night and enemies hear the clapping of my fat ass cheeks, I can lure them into a false sense of security where I'd be able to strike. Unfortunately, I've accidentally also made my character look like a midget, which is not the direction I was trying to go in. It is also possible that you could pack extra heat if you want and give yourself a secondary weapon if you will. But I personally decided against this because the weight of having an ass that fat and a peen that large would most likely give me a speed debuff. So the story starts by you just getting off a boat as a slave, destined to spend the rest of your life in the fuck mines, or maybe even the rape machine if you are lucky. But turns out you are lucky because the person who has just enslaved you has decided to let you go. Why? Well, that is a very good question, which the game doesn't really give an answer to. Well, the woman who enslaved you says some shit like, yo, welcome here, brother. Oh wow, looks like you were not corrupted. Good job. How about you go join an orgy or something? And that's all you get. But hey, at least that's better writing than some of the modern goy slop that we've been seeing in recent years. Now, I would go over the rest of this game's story, but unfortunately, I do not remember any of it. So I have embraced my inner scholar and researched some of the lore of this game. Now, I do not think that this was a good use of my time, but hey, since we are already here, let me waste some of your time too. So the whole game is set in the mythical ancient land of Cebu, and the lore goes that there was this woman, and she's fucked it all up, you know? Classic tale. But this woman, she was like the god of sex, and basically everyone around her became horny as fuck, so at least she was good for something. And then everyone was doing these crazy diddy parties 24/7, but once she mysteriously left, which is still a mystery, but I'm sure this is all somehow inexplicably connected to the Jews, once she left, everyone stopped becoming horny and then became employed, which would be like the Gooners equivalent of 9/11. Anyway, so she had these bodyguards, but once she fucked everything up, these bodyguards took over Cebu and are now ruining it by waging endless wars and basically sending rape missiles to each other. So you could say that this game was loosely inspired by the modern conflict that is happening in Israel right now. Anyways, so it's up to you to stop everyone and stop all this shit from happening. And that's all the lore and story you get. So yes, this game does have an unfinished story, which makes sense considering this game is still in early access, but despite all this, I've actually quite enjoyed it. Now, I'm sure you are wondering, how does the story get pushed forward in Carnal Instinct? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this game uses dialogue to push this game's plot, which is a novel concept for the ape-like retards, aka the community that plays this game, although it usually is quite shallow, and most of the time the dialogue boils down to something like this. Yo homie, I'm looking for the supermarket. Can you please give give me some directions? Yeah, I could give you some directions, but first you have to suck my dick. In some rare cases, however, dialogue, intentionally or not, can be kind of funny and get a little laugh out of me.
We have arms.
Oh, okay.
We have legs.
Okay.
So